I'm Riley Evan Ross. When David Holt was elected mayor of Oklahoma City, I'll be honest, I didn't know what to think of him. You may or may not remember that he had support from progressives and conservatives alike. He touted endorsements from a broad coalition of businesses, civic leaders, and even Enes Kanter. But I was still hesitant. I knew he was a Republican state senator. He worked for Dennis Hastert. He worked for Jim Inhofe. He worked at the White House under Bush. And despite the extensive support he received, I think I can be forgiven for questioning his nonpartisan or moderate bona fides. Many of you may or may not know that the mayor and city council are nonpartisan elections. That said, I've been pleasantly surprised since he took office. He continues to maintain a broad coalition of support, and more importantly, he continues to give support to a broad spectrum of candidates, to anyone that's doing good for this city, like the recent elections of Nikki Nice as Ward 7 councilperson and Kendra Horn as Congressional District 5 representative, as well as support for project managers and city workers that recently became citizens. And if you need a good partisan palate cleanser coming off the election, and partner, you came to the right place.
I think nonpartisanship allows you to be as unique as individuals really are. I mean, nobody actually fits into the party doctrine of the the 500-page party platform distributed by the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. There's actually very few human beings who would subscribe to all of those bullet points. And if you actually want to get anything done and you want to coexist with other human beings in a diverse community of 650,000 as we have here, you've got to be pragmatic. And so you don't surrender your principles, but you say, you know what, I can come your direction a little bit. I'm still better off than I was before. And we'll compromise, which, you learned in kindergarten, but somehow it's been lost in the current American political discourse.
This is Y'all Okay. Howdy, friends and neighbors. Welcome to Y'all Okay, the podcast about the state of Oklahoma and the people connected to it. Folks, we have a good one today. This is perhaps the shortest interview yet, but it was also a fun one. I interviewed Mayor David Holt in mid-September, and it was super cool. I went to City Hall, got to go up to where the offices are, and sat in what appears to be a meeting room. And there's pictures on the wall everywhere of kids that are specifically chosen. These kids are of all different colors and upbringings all over the city. And asking him about it, it was an intentional choice to put these up here instead of the pictures of all the city past mayors, because he wanted, whenever kids come in, or whenever people come in to this meeting room, they can see not only the future of Oklahoma City and what we're working towards, but also a demographically representative makeup of what this city is. And I thought that was super, super cool. If you're listening to this, then there's a good chance you've seen Mayor Holt's social media post. He's a tall, super polished guy that posts about the Thunder and Oklahoma City restaurants and reviving the northeast side of town. And to sit down him in City Hall, in that room with all those kids, he kind of lets his hair down, or so to speak, as much as possible. And it was pretty cool. When you're in a room with Mayor Holt, you feel heard, but he doesn't make creepy eye contact with you or anything. He's not so dialed in that he's a robot. He actually looks away and he looks down, and he tries to give really thoughtful, honest answers in the moment. And if you're interested in his social media behavior, you'll really want to stay tuned, because the way he acts online could be seen as a great example for how most of us could act. I have to admit that I came away from our conversation, particularly the social media part, a bit more inspired to put some positivity out into the world. Real quick before we get into it, do you guys like coffee? I mean, I reckon you do. Listen, I don't care where you are, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Lawton, Alva, Lindsay, Chakotah, Altus, Enid, Stilley, anywhere in Oklahoma, hell, anywhere in the United States, you can have premium coffee beans shipped to your door every month through Roast Scout. Roast Scout is a company that scouts out a good small batch coffee roast from a small roastery. These are coming from small places, and they ship the coffee directly to you. And it's absolutely delicious. My first month was Loyal Coffee, which is this small batch roaster in Colorado Springs, and it was just insanely good. Super smooth, very bright. It was excellent on its own, but I also consumed it with breakfast foods, as you have a tendency to do. And it was great. I can't wait until next month. I have no idea what the next coffee bean is going to be, but I just know that as soon as I get it, I'm going to peel it open, read about it, grind it up, and brew it. I can't wait. And you don't have to either. All you have to do is go to roastscout.com/y'allok. That is roastscout.com/YALLOK. Click join now and get the first month completely free. roastscout.com/y'allok. Join now and get the first month completely free. You know, I mentioned Loyal Coffee, and speaking of loyal, I was lucky enough to be chosen to participate in this program called Loyal, which stands for Linking OKC's Young Adult Leaders. And you might be thinking to yourself, Riley, I know you're not young. And I say bull, because I'm in Loyal, and that proves it. And Loyal is run through Leadership Oklahoma City, and that Leadership Oklahoma City is this organization that's all about connecting Oklahoma City, linking professionals, civic and business leaders together, so that we might continue to push Oklahoma City forward. And there seems to be a real sense among these loyal folks that, like, it's all about the city. No one really cares about east side versus west side versus northwest side versus south side. There's a real sense that we're really all in this together. And I think if you're lucky enough to be exposed to it, this positive unifying energy becomes a part of you. You take that shirt and you wear it with pride. But after the elections and viewing the electoral map for governor's race, you know, I still have my doubts about other divides that currently exist. I still don't get this whole Tulsa versus OKC divide. I don't get the eastern part of the state versus central part of the state versus west vibe. I don't get it. I hate it. I said in the very first episode, or episode 0 of this, that I've been all over the state. Lived in various parts of the state, visited for extended periods of the state, and I absolutely love it. And I got to thinking about some sort of unification effort, you know, like in the spirit of this conversation with David Holt. The other day, I used my social media platform for good, I feel like anyway, and I decided to post this pie in the sky post about forming knowledge sharing and culture sharing connections through urban, rural, and suburban communities across the state. And it wouldn't be like an effort to merely export some sort of urban way of thinking to the rural areas, but an opportunity to also import some of that culture and lifestyle back into the cities as well, you know. And it was cool. Like, it generated a lot of support. I got a lot of positive feedback. Some folks were kind enough to even point me in the direction of, like, existing organizations and authors and speakers that are doing very similar things. So I just mentioned that to say, I have no idea what's going to come out of this, right? I have no clue. Right now, my wife and I are loosely referring to this hypothetical organization as CRUX, Creating Rural Urban Exchange. because that's really the crux of the matter. You see what we did there? And now I'm going to say that this is informally trademarked because I mentioned it on this podcast, which is like the modern version of mailing yourself an idea, if that ever worked. Anyway, if you're interested in helping out, you can actually hit me up on Instagram at R_E_Ross, or just, look for Riley Ross, Y'all Okay, or the Y'all Okay Facebook page, or email me at y'allokpodcast@gmail.com. Who knows? Maybe Crux will be a real thing. Maybe this mission will be what next season's Y'all Okay podcast is all about. I don't know. Just stay tuned. But without any further messing around, ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable David Holt. You went to PC North, right?
Correct. Yes.
You, grow up in the area?
Yeah, born and raised in Oklahoma City. Born at what was Presbyterian Hospital, now OU Health Science, at 13th and Northeast 13th in Lincoln. And then, went to... kind of lived in that Putnam City area. Of course, Putnam City is not a thing, but it is a school district.
Right.
And I lived in that part of Oklahoma City. My whole upbringing went to Wiley Post, Hefner, and PC North.
And so you went to Georgetown?
Common mistake, George Washington.
Oh, yeah, GW. Okay,
That's
cool.
right. I spent my whole adult life people thinking that I went to Georgetown. Very common. They're down the street from each other.
Yeah, they're right down the street from each other. I love that part of town, though. Like I said, I got to go to DC pretty often for my work. And what you study there?
Political science, not surprisingly.
No, not surprising. Well, that's cool. What did you want to do with that? Like, when did you realize? I know that GW has a good, both international school as it relates to political science, but did you always want to go into public service? Was that a goal? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think when I first got there, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do. I probably had a list of 10 majors, but as time went on, I got more and more drawn into the thing that had probably been the main reason for me going there, which was the opportunity to be around the federal government and all of that entailed. And so I interned for some congressmen, and then from Oklahoma, and then my first real job was for the Speaker of the House in the U.S. Capitol. I did that after college for about a year, and then I ended up working in the White House from there for 2 years. But I would say by the end of college, and then as it emerged into a professional career, I was just intrigued by the job satisfaction that public service offers. It's usually not a way to get rich, but it is satisfying because you get to help people, and every day is different. It's diverse work, and
right.
And I enjoyed all of it, and I just always envisioned I just kind of did what I enjoyed, and I always sort of probably imagined I'd run for office, but I didn't have any particular master plan. I just kind of thought that I'd probably have to go home at some point because I wanted to do that, and so that's what I did. In fact, 2004, I came back home.
Yeah, so I'm interested in that, which is a good segue since you've worked at both of the federal chambers as well as the executive branch. Even if these are valid jobs, internships, whatever, it's all experience.
Well, those were real jobs. Those were my real jobs, and for the Speaker and for the White House, they weren't internships. And so it was a great resume. I mean, I'd worked for the President and the Speaker of the House. I mean, it was a great resume to stay in D.C. But I had this yearning to not have regret, and I felt like if I had stayed in D.C. and not tried to go back home and maybe embark upon an elected career that I would regret it. So
after working at the state level, federal level, and now municipal level, this is a big question, but I'm wondering if there's a condensed version of it. What are the big differences that you see in those experiences working in those entities?
I've worked in the White House, the U.S. Capitol, the state capitol, both in a staff position and in an elected legislative position, and now I've worked at the city level, both as a staff position and now as the mayor, and so nobody should be better disposed to discuss the differences. I mean, the biggest difference, especially in modern politics, is the partisanship that exists at the state and federal level that does not exist at the city level. We run nonpartisan, and people might know what you are. I was a Republican state senator when I ran for mayor, so it wasn't a secret, but But I think I certainly embraced the philosophy that it was a nonpartisan office, and that I think nonpartisanship allows you to be as unique as individuals really are. I mean, nobody actually fits into the party doctrine of the the 500-page party platform distributed by the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. There's actually very few human beings who would subscribe to all of those bullet points. And yet we sort of live with this fiction that's possible, and city government here in Oklahoma, being nonpartisan, allows you to be as unique and complex as all people really are, and so you may sort of be more this way than the other, but the reality is it's a complicated mix of views. And if you actually want to get anything done and you want to coexist with other human beings in a diverse community of 650,000 as we have here, you've got to be pragmatic. And so you don't surrender your principles, but you say, I can come your direction a little bit. I'm still better off than I was before, and we'll compromise, which, you learned in kindergarten, but somehow it's been lost in the current American political discourse, but still exists here, partly because I think of that nonpartisan nature. I'd say the other big difference between municipal government and all the other levels is just the impact you can have feels so much greater. I mean, which may seem counterintuitive, because if you're working in the White House, man, what's more powerful and influential than working in the White House? But you never really see it. You never really feel that you've impacted anything. I felt more useful giving tours, to the White House than any type of impact I was having on people's daily lives. But here at the municipal level, I mean, you see your influence and your ability to affect lives on a daily basis. And that's, again, if you go back to why you really do this, which is clearly for the personal enjoyment and satisfaction, because I make $24,000 as the mayor. It's not for the money.
Right.
You want to do it in a way that is enjoyable, and where you feel like you're making an impact and you're fulfilling your purpose in this life. And so I think you're most apt to meet that standard at the city level than anywhere else.
That's really cool. That's a good answer. Yeah, the topic that I write and speak on when I'm not doing this or not doing VA stuff is the topic of moderation. And I've actually talked to Councilman Stone about it quite a bit, and it seems to be a topic that he's very interested in, and we've had some conversations about it. But I think there is something freeing, like, never mind. I was gonna ask like a very big question, but I thought that's a terrible idea. Okay, so let's get into that. What you just said was a pretty good segue. So we're talking about social media and divisiveness. Well, I'm going to bring up social media as a part of it because I feel like that plays a role.
Sure.
And there was you had you're very active on social media, and you had a relatively, what I would say is like a benign post about, it was a free adoption day.
Okay.
And someone had made
free dog adoption.
Yeah, and so we actually got a dog from that
awesome
thing that you were. Yeah, it was really cool.
I'm a matchmaker.
Exactly right. But someone made a comment, and everybody makes a comment on stuff that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? And some guy was like, "What are you going to do about such and such?" And I can't remember the exact context, and I couldn't find the quote, but you had basically said, paraphrasing, the role of the mayor is to make sure that the city hires the right people and allows the professionals to do their job. And of course, again, that's paraphrasing. I don't want to misrepresent you, but
I think I might even, believe it or not, know the exchange you're talking about, and which is hard to believe because I am on social media like all day long and trying to answer all these questions across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But I do think I remember a guy saying, I sent you an email about such and such, which had nothing to do with the post,
Yep, absolutely.
And I said, oh yeah, I'm actually reading my email, so I said, yeah, I saw that. I've given it to these experts to respond to you. And he said, but I didn't email them. I emailed you. And I said, well, there's 4,500 city employees, and you would actually be best served to get a response from the people who actually know what's going on with that topic rather than the mayor. My role is a facilitator. I know all these people, so you don't have to. You come to me almost like I'm an ombudsman or a liaison to the public.
Yeah.
And I guide you to the right experts who have the right answers. I'm not. There are some things I feel comfortable answering and being the expert on, but lots of technical stuff, whether your street's going to be fixed or, whether what the water rates are. I mean, I'm not going to know those answers, and I don't pretend to, but I know people who do, and that's my job, And so, yeah, that was that. But, social media is a great tool. It's also, it can be somewhat depressing because you're
Sure.
sort of amazed. My relatives, my cousins are always texting me with these they think they're hilarious, these things people say on my Facebook pages that seem to have no relevance to anything. And
Yeah.
and I'm just used to it, and I have seemingly infinite patience for it. But still, I think there's a lot of good that it does. I mean, it's an outlet for me to share, what's important today to the city, what's important to me, what I'm doing, what the city's doing, that wouldn't have otherwise existed, before the advent of social media. I mean, the newspapers wouldn't have covered me going to the state fair, right? So no one would have ever known, And but here I have an opportunity to kind of promote the state fair and maybe and other things like that, and also interact. I mean, because I do, I answer questions.
You really do, yeah. I've noticed that. And I thought if I was in the same position as him, I know people often overuse politicians and don't utilize the phrase like public servant enough. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I doubt I could engage at the same level that you do.
Well, sometimes it's almost sport to show how kind I can be in agreement.
I like that.
And in retaliation for their unbelievable rudeness, I mean, because people will behave occasionally like animals on social media, and I just always kill them with kindness, almost thinking that's my revenge. Like, this will look hilarious, how rude they are to me and how nice I am back. Like, everyone else reading this will think less of them and better of me.
That's exactly right.
So haven't I won? Not by raising my voice, but by meeting them with the moderate tone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, yeah, you nailed it. All right, cool. Let's wrap up. I want to be respectful of your time. These are the final 5 questions.
Yeah.
They don't have to be Oklahoma. Well, one of them does need to be Oklahoma in answer, but the others don't. So, what's your morning routine like?
Getting the kids out the door. We have an 8 and a 6-year-old, so
Those are my kids too, 8 and 6.
Wait, George and Maggie?
Yeah.
No, so they got to go to school. So that's I'm not a morning person, so it's just a lot of chaos in the morning. Just getting myself up and ready, getting my kids up and ready, and getting them to school, and me, to whichever of the jobs I'm working that day.
Gotcha. What's the evening routine like?
Getting them to bed. Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Totally.
I always think it's easy for people whose kids are either grown or maybe people never had kids to not understand what a time suck that is. It's a wonderful thing. I love my kids, but it means that when I walk in that door, there's really no me time, until they're asleep, and so that's going to be, realistically could be as late as 9:30, and then there's so I almost never go to bed before midnight, and not because I'm trying to be a night owl, but it's like at some point you got to open the mail and you got to check your check your emails and all that stuff. I hate going to bed with a bunch of unread messages across the 15 different ways that you can communicate with me, so I try to I call it clearing my phone. I got to clear my phone and go to bed with peace, and the evening routine feels just as chaotic as the morning routine. Getting the kids to bed and then trying to just wrap up the business of the day.
I know you're a writer, and you recently had you're engaged with the community around books. So what's your personal favorite book?
Yeah, I don't know. That there's one. I'm always pushing people to read Invisible Man. I think it's written by an Oklahoma City writer, Ralph Ellison. And still a topical book, even 60 years, 70 years later. Right lately, I've enjoyed Boomtown, which is a national book about Oklahoma City's history, which I highly recommend. And but yeah, I don't know that I've ever had a one book that I turn back to for better or worse.
Can you name one of your favorite musical artists?
Well, how can you not? I know there's nothing and unique about what I'm about to say at all, but we walk on the same planet at the same time as people that I think will be as whose legend will be as long living as Beethoven and Mozart, and that's the Beatles. And that's always We took our kids to see Paul McCartney when he was here in the last year, and then we even went down to Windstar Casino to take them to see Ringo, so they could, on their deathbeds, know that they saw both living Beatles in person. So, it's there's nothing better than the Beatles. Now, beyond that, I am a child of the '90s, so
sure.
There's a lot of hip hop in my car, believe it or not. That's certainly that's what I was brought up on. So
nice. That's good basketball warm-up music.
Indeed.
That's what it's in. And where is your favorite spot in Oklahoma?
My favorite spot in Oklahoma.
I've gotten Backyards, Arcadia, Mount Scott.
Right now, with as busy as my life is, because you also got to remember, it seemed like I'm really busy as the mayor. I also have another job. You don't even see that because it's not as interesting, to talk about. But so I'm busy, and plus I got 2 kids, and I'm busy on an insane level. And so for me right now, my favorite spot is my backyard pool on a Sunday where I don't have to give a speech, I don't have to make a public appearance. We can just relax, and those are pretty few and far between. So that right now is all I want in life, is just a quiet day at home.
It doesn't get any better than that. Mayor Holt, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Are we watching a movie?
No, I'm going to watch Ken Burns.
It's not really good.
You don't think Ken Burns is good?
I don't want to watch Ken Burns. You can't watch Ken Burns.
Thank you so much to Mayor Holt. And by the way, I just want to mention this. A special shout out to Karen Fox. Karen is the executive assistant to the mayor and to the city manager, Jim Couch, who's about to retire. So congrats to Mr. Couch on his retirement, and big thanks for all your work here in Oklahoma City. And again, thanks to Karen Fox for helping facilitate this interview and show, for that matter. And I have a brief programming note. I have some really awesome guests coming up that include Daniela Buscilio, Natalie Kemp from Nominee, Apollo Woods, Doug Sirocco, J.B. Williams, the rapper J.B., and a couple more that I'm ironing out. And just, folks that are really making a difference in the state, young creatives and entrepreneurs. And I'm really excited about this season here, the 3rd episode in. So subscribe to the podcast, and even check out some of the past episodes that include rabbis and imams and NFL players and representatives and gubernatorial candidates. So check it out. I really appreciate you listening. I appreciate the fact that you gave time to this show. Check out RileyEvanRoss.com for good coffee. Go to roastscout.com/y'allok. Get your first month free. And keep doing right by each other. And until next time, don't be a stranger.